Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. In our first story, Revenge of the Construction Workers. Let's jump right in. I am a teacher, and when I was younger, I would take summer jobs to supplement my income. One summer, I worked for a bricklayer named Jerry and heard an amazing story. I worked for Jerry in the mid-90s, so the story either happened in the early 90s or in the 80s. Here it goes. The setting for the story was a community of small rural towns which had only one brick contractor. Jerry began his career as a bricklayer working for this contractor, a real jerk. The jerk and the jerk's son, who's an adult working the business with his father, would harass, belittle, and humiliate all their employees on a regular basis. No work was ever good enough, and employees were told they weren't worth what they were paid. Not only did the jerk mistreat his employees, but he was equally rude to other subcontractors and to the general contractors who hired him. Since he was the only bricklayer in the community, there was nothing anyone could do about it. Needless to say, the turnover rate for the brick business was very high. The only person that stuck with Jerk and company was Jerry. Jerry told me that his father had installed a self-confidence in him that Jerry could do anything he set his mind to do, and that he should not evaluate himself according to what others said, but rather by the facts. Although Jerry was belittled by Jerk and Son, as were all the other employees, Jerry was becoming a very good bricklayer. Jerry knew he was good. The jerk knew Jerry was good, but the jerk didn't know that Jerry knew he was good. Not only was Jerry a good bricklayer, he was very respectful to the boss who disrespected him. The jerk thought that Jerry was a naive pushover who was buying his head games. That would prove to be a huge mistake on his part. One day, Jerry was doing an exceptionally good job of laying brick. Not only was his craftsmanship amazing, he was laying brick at a high rate of speed so that he was making his boss lots of money. Of course, Jerk and Son were belittling his work as though he was doing the very opposite. This scenario was being observed by the general contractor of the project. After work that day, the general contractor asked Jerry to stay behind so he could talk to him. As did every other construction worker in the community, the general contractor hated working with the jerk. The general contractor told Jerry that he had heard the jerk and Son belittling him and told him that he disagreed with everything the jerk was saying. He asked Jerry if he had ever considered going into business for himself. Jerry said that he would like to do that someday. The general contractor then said that he would loan Jerry the money to buy a mixer, the most expensive piece of equipment needed to start a brick business, if Jerry would indeed start said business. The only hitch was that Jerry would need to pay for the mixer whenever he could and that he would subcontract under the general contractor. Jerry agreed to those terms and prepared to begin his new venture. Jerry respectfully told the Jerk and Son his plans and gave his notice. The two mocked Jerry ruthlessly and laughed him to scorn. Jerk told Jerry, "You'll be back in 2 months begging to return to your job. You'll never make it as a subcontractor." 2 months later, rather than collapsing as the jerk predicted, Jerry was still in business and going strong. 1 year later, Jerry's business was booming and a drunk jerk showed up at Jerry's house and begged him to come back to work with Jerk and Son. "Jerry, you're the best employee I ever had." Jerry replied, "Why didn't you ever tell me that when I was working for you?" The jerk couldn't answer the question, and Jerry obviously didn't accept the offer for employment. 2 years after beginning his entrepreneurial adventure, Jerry heard that Jerk and Son went out of business. Jerry said that he never intended to harm Jerk and Son when he accepted the general contractor's offer. He said that looking back on things, he realized that he had become the jerk's greatest nightmare. I can't say that the general contractor intended no harm. I thought the most amazing thing about the story was how Jerry maintained his self-esteem in spite of all the ridicule. I also gained a respect for Jerry's father, who instilled an unshakable self-confidence in Jerry. Edit: I contacted Jerry today after 20 years to let him know how highly you all thought of him. He reminded me that his father was wheelchair bound and accomplished so much in spite of his handicap. He told me it was seeing his father overcoming huge obstacles that made the jerk's words seem to be such a minor obstacle to overcome. Story 2, in which I take umbrage at a rude man on the phone. Warning, there is no hero in this story. A guy was an arsehole to me and I was a bigger arsehole back. Honestly, I probably went too far. One day I got a sales call from this company I'm investing with, trying to sell me more investment. I wasn't against it, so I let the sales guy talk, asked my questions, then told him I wasn't interested once it became obvious it wasn't what I wanted. This guy was persistent though. He kept asking why I wasn't interested, then told me he was going to email me a bunch of documentation to help me make my decision. So he emails me some stuff that I don't read and calls me again the next day. I tried to politely tell him that this was a waste of both of our time, but then it got weird. Let's call the guy Jack. Did you even read any of the stuff I sent you yesterday? No, like I told you, I'm not interested. So you're a liar then. Excuse me? He went on to complain because, according to him, I told him I was going to invest in his offer but then pulled out at the last minute. I told him I didn't say anything of the sort. I simply let him make his pitch, then told him I wasn't interested. Just because he pushes and follows up against my will doesn't magically change any of this. Secondly, this call is crazy unprofessional. How are you going to survive in sales if you start yelling at everyone who says no to you? The call gets really heated at this point. I think my guy was holding in some serious frustration because he unloaded a bunch of insults on me in a wildly disproportionate way. In response, I started needling and insulting him back, infuriating him further, culminating in him reading my address over the phone to intimidate me and making threats about how he's going to come over and kill me. It wasn't my address, it was my office address, but the intent was there. I was pissed after this, and not being able to let it go, I weighed my options. Sending in a complaint was the easiest option and would almost certainly have led to him getting punished for it, but it was also way too formal and impersonal. For the sake of my ego, I needed the satisfaction of actually delivering a personal blow. So, knowing what offices and sales teams are like, I decided to embarrass him. I run my own business and we send a lot of cold emails. As such, I have access to a bunch of tools and processes to gather email addresses from a given business domain. I get to work, find about 60 company emails, and bulk send the following email to everyone on this list, except for Jack. Hi there, I'm trying to reach Jack in sales. Please forward this to him if you know him, as I don't have his email. Hi Jack, just following up on our phone call from earlier today. The one where you called me a lying blank and a son of a whore because I didn't want to give you money, then read out my address over the phone and threatened to kill me. I know it's frustrating when you don't make a sale, but whining about it and insulting the lead isn't going to help you. Here's a YouTube link where I uploaded a recording of your rant for your convenience. I thought maybe you can go through it and learn how to control your emotions better in the future. Thanks. Note, please don't read this or view the link if you're not Jack in sales. I timed the email to hit everyone's inbox around 8 a.m. This way it would be at the top of everyone's inbox as they started their day, and there wouldn't be any time for anyone higher up to become aware of the email and wipe it from everyone's inboxes before it's seen, just in case that was a possibility. Over the next 24 hours, I got a bunch of emails from random people asking if the recording is real, a couple from people saying they can't believe he said that stuff, another death threat from Jack, and an urgent message from my regular account manager asking if I can please set up a time for a call to discuss my recent experience. Also, the YouTube upload had almost 100 views. Lol. Story number 3. A homeowner got what was coming to him. I worked an engineering construction job last year for a home builder, and we had to deal with a bunch of 5G anti-vaxxer health nuts moving into one of our neighborhoods. Constant complaints about the construction, the noise, the debris, which made no sense because they chose to move into the neighborhood before construction was completed. One man in particular would harass us daily, complaining about the streetlights being too bright. They weren't, and complaining about a generator we had running about a block away from him to power the site temporarily until we had infrastructure in. The complaints ranged from the generator was damaging his hearing, thing was almost completely silent, or that the fumes from the generator were coming into his house and causing him and his kids to have stunted development. They would come up with stuff that made little to no sense. It escalated to the point where he got the city and the mayor involved, and we got sued, so we gave in to his requests and moved the generator to an inconvenient location and had to take the time and money to rewire to be able to power the areas needed. This was including important stuff like the streetlights. We had to leave off for a couple nights until the move was complete, and you guessed it, he would call to complain. The nerve of this man. So here comes the revenge. We received an order from the city to install a 5G tower on site to improve cellular connection because the area we were in had pretty bad service. Since my team and I were in charge of creating the plans to install the infrastructure, guess where we all simultaneously agreed to put the tower? Right smack dab in front of the angry man's house. We thought this was incredibly hilarious and couldn't stop laughing every time he would call, freaking out while the tower was being constructed. It got to the point he tried to file another lawsuit, got laughed away, and within a week we never heard from them again. He moved out faster than the wind. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.